Hi everybody, welcome back to my classroom where we're going to be exploring some new and fun idioms this week. So here we go, are you ready? This week is about bad things, and while we don't necessarily want to dwell on bad things, there's enough bad things happening in the world right now. We do need fun ways to talk about them. So as long as bad things have to happen, let's use some idioms to talk about them. So what are some of the fun idioms that we have? This is one of my personal favorites, and in the book it talks about the last straw. And the last straw is the last thing that makes something unbearable. Now, where it comes from is the idiom, the straw that broke the camel's back, which is another idiom when you say this particular thing happened was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that straw that broke the camel's back was, in fact, the last straw. The example sentence that we have for that is, I had so many problems making this video, but when my internet failed, that was the last straw. No video this week. Or you could say, I had so many problems making this video, but the straw that broke the camel's back was when my internet failed. So they mean the same thing, it's just two different ways to talk about them. And what I want you to see from this, one reason why it's one of my favorite idioms for our class, is because idioms themselves, even though the kind of language is a sort of language chunk where we do have to memorize them in that order, even the idioms themselves are changing. The straw that broke the camel's back is a lot of words to say. So we broke it down and now we can just say the last straw. The next idiom that I want to talk about today goes with the idioms that we had last week with the positive world idioms, and this is a negative world idiom, not going to set the world on fire. Because if you set the world on fire, that's positive and that you're very successful. So if you're not setting the world on fire, that means you are not successful. And our example sentence for that is, that phone design is not going to set the world on fire. Now, in California, I would be careful with this one. We have a lot of wildfires going on, and in California, setting the world on fire is not, in fact, a good thing. And it just shows you that even though we have all these great idioms in English, some of them are not appropriate in every situation. The next idiom, however, is great, and you can use it pretty much anytime you want. It is like watching paint dry. What it means is extremely boring, because we have to wait when we're painting to put multiple layers of paint on the whatever thing we're painting. There's nothing you can do in between, so you just have to sit there and watch and wait for it dry. So our example sentence for this is, waiting for that file to upload was like watching paint dry. It's a really fun idiom. You can try that this week. The next idiom that I want to talk about is nothing to write home about. The idea is that things to write home about are great or fun or we enjoy them. So if I have nothing to write home about, then in fact I don't have anything impressive or good to say. My example sentence for that is, the museum is nothing to write home about, which means, you know, that museum is not all that interesting. Another really fun idiom is leave a bad taste in the mouth. What that means is it makes me uncomfortable, or I don't like it, or it's not nice. So it doesn't have to actually be something that you're tasting, right? This is an idiom, it's idiomatic use. Here's my example sentence. The way she talks to me leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like the way she talks to me. Her tone of voice or her words, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You could use it for movies. That movie left a bad taste in my mouth. It's a real fun kind of idiom. Another idiom that we have that I also really enjoy, I love all these idioms this week, is not my cup of tea. So not my cup of tea means something I don't like. You wouldn't say not my cup of coffee. This is a case where we don't change the idiom. So it has to be not my cup of tea to in fact be the idiom. So an example sentence for that would be, going snowboarding is definitely not my cup of tea because I'm not very athletic. I'm trying to walk, but snowboarding, that is way out of my league. Going snowboarding is definitely not my cup of tea. The next idiom that we're going to look at is rough around the edges. I love rough around the edges because I personally am very rough around the edges. This idiom can be used to describe things or people or projects. All it means is it's not perfect. It still needs work. And if you think about it, we had another idiom in the D section of our Scholastic Dictionary of Idioms. Do you remember what that was? It had to do with precious stones. If you said diamond in the rough, you are absolutely right. So rough around the edges is very similar to diamond in the rough. Not perfect, still needs work, but it's got potential. Our example sentence for that is, my new book that I'm working on, and it should be out by the end of the year, is still pretty rough around the edges, so I have to work really hard to get it finished. And that pretty much wraps up our week. Continue to study our book and our idioms and learn some things. You will soon put your best foot forward with all of these great idioms. I will see you next time, everybody, and have a great day.